So, the United States of America and Venezuela are two nations in the Western Hemisphere with a long and complicated history. On the surface, they might seem very different. America is a huge, powerful country with a massive economy. Venezuela is smaller in South America, known for huge oil reserves. Their relationship was built on a shared interest in oil. America needed the energy to power its cities and cars. Venezuela needed the money from selling oil to build its country and support its people. This connection made them important partners. But this partnership has not always been a happy one. Think of it like a friendship with good times and bad. Leadership changes brought new ideas and priorities. Those changes led to misunderstandings and conflicts. The relationship matters globally because it can affect oil prices, South American stability, and millions of lives. Their disagreements are about power, politics, and different worldviews. America often promotes democracy and free markets where businesses can operate with little government control. Recent Venezuelan governments followed a socialist path, increasing state control to help the poor. It's like one person with a blueprint for a wooden cabin, and another with a blueprint for a steel skyscraper. Today, relations are at one of their lowest points. The two countries barely speak directly. They have imposed sanctions, made accusations, and supported opposing groups. The big question: could this cold disagreement turn hot? Understanding how they reached this point is the first step to knowing what might come next. The story really began to change at the end of the 20th century. Before then, the two countries were mostly friendly partners. But everything shifted when Hugo Chavez was elected president of Venezuela in 1998. He called his movement the Bolivarian Revolution and wanted to use Venezuela's oil wealth to fund social programs. He was very critical of American influence in Latin America, which he saw as imperialism. Chavez began to take more control over the oil industry, which had been dominated by foreign companies. He changed contracts and increased taxes, which angered many American businesses. He also started building strong friendships with countries that America considered adversaries: Cuba, Iran, Russia. This made leaders in Washington very nervous. They saw Chavez as undermining democracy and creating an anti-American alliance. In 2002, there was a short-lived coup that removed Chavez from power, and the United States was quick to recognize the new government. This made Chavez believe America was behind the attempt to overthrow him. After Chavez's death in 2013, his hand-picked successor, Nicolás Maduro, took power. The relationship with the United States did not get better. It got much worse. Venezuela's economy began to collapse, leading to hyperinflation, food shortages, and a massive humanitarian crisis. The American government accused Maduro of corruption, human rights abuses, and rigging elections. In response, America placed heavy sanctions on Venezuela, targeting its oil industry and top officials to pressure Maduro to step down. The primary goal of the United States is to see a change in government in Venezuela. American leaders want President Maduro and his Socialist Party to leave power. They hope for a transition to a democratic government that would hold free elections, release political prisoners, and restore human rights. America believes this is the only way to end the humanitarian crisis and stop the refugee flow affecting allies like Colombia and Brazil. On the other hand, the Venezuelan government's primary desire is simple: survival. President Maduro wants to remain in power at all costs. They see American demands as an illegal attempt to overthrow their sovereign government and install a puppet leader. Therefore, their main goal is to resist this pressure by strengthening alliances with Russia, China, and Iran. For the United States, there's deep concern about the presence of global rivals in the Western Hemisphere. American policymakers worry about these countries establishing military or intelligence footholds so close to American shores. They also worry about illegal activities, as the U.S. has accused Venezuelan officials of drug trafficking and criminal enterprises. For the Venezuelan government, staying in power is about ideology and personal security. They frame their struggle as fighting capitalist imperialism. Many officials fear that losing power means facing prosecution for alleged crimes like corruption and human rights violations. This fear gives them powerful incentive to hold power no matter what, as stepping down could mean losing their freedom or lives. This makes any negotiation for peaceful transition extremely difficult. The desires of the United States and Venezuela are almost completely opposite, creating a diplomatic deadlock. With such fundamental disagreements about power, legitimacy, and regional influence, both sides remain entrenched in their positions. In the last couple of years, several events have acted like sparks on dry tinder. The United States has tightened economic sanctions, targeting shipping companies and oil traders. This has made it much harder for Maduro's government to get money, leading to greater economic hardship and fueling anti-American narratives. Another major friction point has been Venezuelan elections widely condemned as neither free nor fair, with opposition leaders banned and observers restricted. The U.S. refused to recognize results and continued recognizing an opposition leader, creating two competing claims to power. Military posturing has increased tensions. U.S. naval ships have conducted freedom of navigation operations in the Caribbean near Venezuelan waters. While the U.S. frames these as routine patrols, Venezuela interprets them as threats and puts its military on high alert. Venezuela has conducted drills with Russian and Iranian forces. The arrival of Iranian warships at Venezuelan ports was seen as major provocation. Diplomatic incidents have poured fuel on the fire. The U.S. Department of Justice unsealed indictments accusing Venezuelan officials of narco-terrorism. President Maduro responded by calling American leaders criminals and imperialists. This constant war of words makes rational diplomacy impossible. Every accusation is met with counter-accusation, creating a cycle of hostility where both sides double down on their positions. These recent events show both sides moving further apart rather than closer together. The risk increases that a miscalculation could lead to more serious confrontation. With sanctions tightening, military posturing increasing, and rhetoric escalating, the pressure cooker continues to build. Each incident pushes both nations closer to a point where diplomatic solutions become even more difficult to achieve. The question now is whether cooler heads will prevail, or if these sparks will ignite something much more dangerous. The question of whether the United States and Venezuela will go to war is serious, but a direct, full-scale military invasion is highly unlikely. For the United States, launching war would be complex, costly, and face strong Latin American opposition, creating massive refugee crisis. However, other forms of military action are more plausible. Naval blockades, targeted airstrikes, or covert operations supporting uprisings. Venezuela cannot match U.S. military power, but could engage in asymmetric warfare using unconventional methods to harm a stronger enemy. This could include cyber attacks against American infrastructure, cooperation with criminal networks, or destabilizing U.S. allies like Colombia. These actions wouldn't win a war, but could raise the cost of American pressure and create significant regional problems. Ultimately, the path forward most likely lies not in war, but in words. History shows even the deepest conflicts can be resolved through diplomacy. For peace to have a chance, both nations would need to take small steps to de-escalate, easing sanctions for democratic concessions, opening back-channel lines of communication to avoid military miscalculations and find common ground. The future of millions of people depends on finding a peaceful solution. Families in both countries deserve better than endless conflict. The road is long and filled with mistrust, but hope for a future built on mutual respect and understanding must never be abandoned. Understanding these complex relationships helps us become better informed citizens of the world. If you found this analysis helpful in understanding U.S.-Venezuela tensions, please subscribe to SNB Creation for more in-depth coverage of global issues that shape our world. Together, we can stay informed about the forces that drive international relations and work toward a more peaceful future for all nations.